The base had gone quiet after a long day of drills, but one Jeep refused to blend into the silence. A seasoned K9 named Rex froze beside it, refusing to move, his growl cutting through the stillness. Soldiers searched the vehicle, expecting nothing more than routine. But then a hidden compartment was exposed. Inside were strange bundles, scattered documents, and something so unsettling that the entire camp stood frozen. But what they uncovered next stunned everyone. Here's the full story waiting for you. But before we continue, make sure you've subscribed to the channel. The sun was falling over the wide expanse of the military training ground, its orange glow painting the sand, the barracks, and the line of parked jeeps in long shadows. Evening drills had ended, and most soldiers had begun returning to their quarters. Engines clicked faintly as the vehicles cooled, dust settling around their tires. The air felt heavy, quiet, as if the base itself was exhaling after a long day. Yet among the order and routine, one sight drew immediate attention: a seasoned military K9 named Rex, known across the base for his precision and loyalty, had suddenly refused to leave the side of one of the jeeps. His handler tugged lightly at the harness, expecting him to move on, but Rex stood planted, rigid and unyielding. His body was tense, ears perked, eyes locked on the dark interior of the vehicle. A low growl rumbled in his throat, one that only surfaced when he sensed something that others could not. The Jeep itself looked no different than the others parked in line. Its paint carried the same dust, its tires carried the same trails of the training field. Yet Rex's stance said otherwise. He would not step away. He circled it once, sniffed near the back door, then returned to the same spot at the passenger side, where he froze as if pointing to an unseen threat. The handler called for assistance, thinking perhaps the scent of explosives or contraband was triggering Rex's response. After all, Rex had been trained for detection in high-stakes environments, his nose sharper than any instrument they had. But what unsettled everyone was not just his refusal, it was his persistence. Minutes turned into nearly half an hour, and still Rex remained there. His growl deepened when anyone tried to approach too close. He scratched once at the door, then stopped, staring in silence, his breath heavy and determined. Soldiers gathered nearby, whispering their own guesses. Some believed it might be leftover training material left inside, a box of gunpowder or residue from past missions. Others wondered if Rex had mistaken the smell of fuel or oil for something else. But those who had worked alongside him knew Rex was never wrong. The officer in charge ordered a careful inspection. Keys were retrieved. The doors creaked open one by one, inspected cautiously with gloved hands. At first glance, the Jeep appeared empty. No bags, no equipment, only the faint smell of leather mixed with sun-baked metal. Yet Rex did not budge. His eyes followed every movement, locked as if waiting for the true discovery to reveal itself. Why was this Jeep different from the rest? Suspicion thickened as flashlights combed the shadows under the seats. Dust motes drifted in the air, but nothing explained Rex's behavior. Even the trunk was opened, revealing nothing but a folded tarp and some tools. Still, the dog's growl rose louder this time, directed not at the trunk but beneath the passenger floorboard. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Could something have been planted there unnoticed? Could the Jeep have been used in ways that no one admitted? The handler crouched low, pressing his ear against the metal floor, knocking gently as if listening for a hollow echo. For a moment there was only silence. Then a faint difference in sound emerged, a dull thud instead of a solid knock. Something was hidden beneath. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The Jeep was cordoned off. A bomb disposal unit was called in for safety. No risks could be taken, not with Rex this adamant. Lights were set up, tools gathered, sweat forming on brows as soldiers worked carefully. The floorboard was probed, scanned, and finally unscrewed. Each movement was deliberate, the weight of possibility pressing on everyone watching. Rex stood motionless, eyes locked, waiting. His stillness carried more tension than his growls had before. He seemed to know they were close, his instinct guiding them step by step. When the first panel loosened, a smell drifted upward, not one of fuel, not of explosives, but something else, something that made even the most hardened men pause. It was faintly sweet, mixed with decay, a scent that spoke of something alive once but now struggling, or perhaps hidden away too long. The air thickened. Soldiers leaned forward, breaths held, as the panel was pried back further. What could be inside? A weapon smuggled under their very noses? Evidence of sabotage? Or something far worse? The officer signaled for more light. A flashlight beam pierced into the hollow gap. Shapes emerged, indistinct at first, then sharper as the shadows surrendered. Cloth. Something wrapped. Movement, or was it just the flicker of light against dust? The men were not sure, but Rex barked suddenly, sharp and commanding, as if to declare that the truth was right there, waiting to be pulled out. Hands worked faster now, cautious but determined. The hidden compartment was real, large enough to conceal more than just tools. The wrapped bundle shifted faintly as it was touched, and a chill ran through the group. Soldiers stepped back instinctively, their minds racing. Had someone smuggled contraband through the very vehicles that stood as symbols of duty? Had an enemy managed to infiltrate the base itself? The questions piled rapidly, each heavier than the last, and Rex, the silent sentinel, stood unwavering, his mission not yet complete. By the time the compartment was fully opened, sweat had soaked collars, and silence pressed so thick it drowned the hum of the floodlights. What waited inside was not yet revealed, but one thing was certain: the dog's refusal had led them to something that was never meant to be found. And with every second that passed, the tension only grew. The Jeep stood open like a wound, the compartment exposed but not yet fully uncovered. The soldiers' eyes burned with unease, torn between fear of what they might uncover and the certainty that Rex's instincts had once again saved them from overlooking the unthinkable. The night had grown darker. The mystery had only deepened, and everyone knew whatever was inside that Jeep, it would not be ordinary. The compartment inside the Jeep yawned open wider, its edges scraped raw where soldiers had pried the metal loose. Flashlights glared against the dark cavity, their beams trembling slightly in the hands of those holding them. The silence was thick, broken only by the faint hum of generators and the soft panting of Rex, who had moved no closer, standing firm as though guarding a secret only he understood. The bundle lay there, wrapped in canvas, bound with coarse rope that had frayed with time. Dust clung to it, but beneath the dust was weight, something solid, something that shifted faintly when nudged. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. It was no mere bag of tools, no leftover equipment accidentally forgotten. This had been hidden with intent. Gloved hands reached in and dragged it carefully into the open. The canvas scratched against the metal, each sound grating against the nerves of those present. When the bundle finally lay on the ground beside the Jeep, the weight of it was evident. It sagged heavily, as if burdened by more than just objects. The air carried that strange scent again. Sweet, faintly sour, the kind of smell that hinted at something human, something organic. It was not the sharp chemical tang of explosives, nor the cold metallic scent of weapons. It was something different. The rope was loosened slowly, deliberately. No risks could be taken. Each knot was cut with precision until the layers of canvas began to unravel. Underneath, old blankets appeared, wrapped tight and damp at the edges, as if they had been there longer than anyone realized. The final blanket peeled back, and the sight beneath struck everyone still. Inside the bundle was a small pack, backpack-sized yet packed with strange contents. Papers scattered loose, some torn, some stamped with foreign markings that raised immediate suspicion. A worn leather notebook rested at the center, its pages thick, corners frayed, and inscriptions covering them in hurried handwriting. But what caught every eye was not the notebook nor the papers, but the object hidden beneath them. A small metal case, locked and scarred, its surface etched with dents as though it had been carried through harsh journeys. The lock was simple but firm, clearly not meant for casual opening. The case seemed almost out of place, civilian in make, yet concealed in the very core of a military jeep. Why would it be here? Who placed it? The soldiers looked instinctively toward Rex. The dog had sat down now, his gaze never leaving the bundle, his breathing steady. He was waiting for them to act, as though every move had been foreseen in his unspoken warning. The case was lifted, heavier than expected. It clanked faintly as if filled with objects not meant to shift freely. The officer in charge ordered it taken to the secure room inside the command post. No chances could be taken in the open field. As they moved the case, Rex followed, never once letting it out of his sight. His steps were measured, steady, his body alert with every movement around him. Inside the command post, the room was cleared. Floodlights buzzed overhead. Tools for inspection lined the tables, prepared for whatever they might uncover. The case was set down, its lock glinting under the lights. It was opened carefully, the click of the latch echoing louder than it should in the silence. The lid creaked as it lifted, revealing its contents at last. At first, the sight was puzzling. Inside the case lay a collection of items that seemed unrelated. A handful of photographs, black and white, edges curled from age. A folded map marked with red lines and circles, its paper fragile. 2 sealed envelopes, one thicker than the other, their flaps closed with wax stamps. And in the corner, tucked tightly, a small velvet pouch tied with string. The soldiers leaned closer, brows furrowed. The photographs were examined first. They showed military vehicles, bases, faces of people in uniform, some familiar, others unknown. But what raised the alarm was the perspective. These photos had not been taken by officials. They were secret, captured from angles that suggested surveillance. The map came next. It was of the surrounding region, not recent but not outdated either. Red lines crisscrossed areas near the base, circling supply routes, checkpoints, and even remote watchtowers. Whoever had drawn these markings had detailed knowledge of military operations. The envelopes were untouched, but their weight suggested more than letters. Then the pouch was untied, its contents spilling softly onto the table. Dog tags, several of them, each stamped with names, numbers, ranks. They belonged to soldiers, men who were either missing, long presumed lost, or currently stationed but accounted for. The presence of their tags here in this hidden case struck deeper than any weapon could have. The room thickened with tension. A thread of unease connected every object together, though the picture was not yet whole. Who had collected these? Why were they hidden in a jeep inside the base? What connection tied photographs, maps, documents, and soldiers' identities into one secret? The notebook was opened carefully. Its pages were filled with writing in hurried strokes, lines and symbols scattered across margins, codes scribbled without explanation. Some pages listed names, others recorded dates with strange annotations beside them. But the final pages carried a chilling detail: lists of transport schedules, convoy departures, and times when security was at its lowest. It was not random. It was intelligence. The realization sank heavy in the room. This was no forgotten bundle, no misplaced kit. It was evidence of infiltration, of betrayal hidden at the heart of the camp. And yet, even as suspicion grew, so did the questions. Who was behind it? Was the jeep itself chosen randomly? Or had someone carefully placed the case there, expecting it to remain undiscovered? Was it meant to be retrieved later, after the right conditions aligned? Rex shifted at the doorway, his eyes following every movement, his body alert. He had led them to this discovery, but the true weight of it was only beginning to surface. The soldiers knew this was not the end of the mystery. The case had revealed fragments of a larger picture, pieces of a puzzle that had yet to connect. But each clue pointed to something hidden deeper, something waiting to be unearthed. And though fear simmered beneath the surface, there was also a growing certainty. Without Rex's refusal to leave that jeep, none of this would have come to light. The dog tags on the table caught the officer's gaze again. Each tag was more than a piece of metal. It was a story, a life, a name carried in silence. And if they were here, tied to this web of secret intelligence, then answers about missing men and hidden operations might not be far behind. Outside, the night grew colder, the wind sweeping dust across the training ground. The Jeep stood silent, its secret finally forced open. But the real secret, the one that connected every piece, still waited in the shadows. And Rex, steadfast, seemed to know they were only at the edge of uncovering it. The case and its contents remained under heavy guard through the night. The command post was locked down, the Jeep secured, and every soldier on base was placed on alert. The discovery had shaken the camp, whispers carrying through the barracks like wildfire. The photographs, maps, coded notebook, and the soldiers' dog tags told a story of intrusion, of shadows moving quietly among them. Yet the full picture was still clouded. Who had gathered this intelligence? Why had it been hidden in a Jeep, where only chance or a determined K-9 could expose it? By morning, the investigation had spread beyond the base. Teams were dispatched to check records, cross-reference names, and verify the dog tags. Slowly, patterns began to emerge. The names etched into the tags matched soldiers who had either disappeared during missions or whose whereabouts were left uncertain in official reports. Families had long been left without closure, told only fragments of truth. The notebook offered more. When its scattered codes were carefully examined, they aligned with dates of recent incidents, ambushes, intercepted supply runs, even accidents that had seemed random at the time. The realization dawned heavily. Someone had been feeding information from inside. Each red circle on the map was not guesswork, it was precision. The envelopes, once opened under secure conditions, revealed lists of transport schedules and intercepted orders stamped with military seals. They bore markings that should never have left official hands. Whoever had handled them was deep within their circle of trust. The truth was undeniable. A spy network had been operating from within the military itself. The Jeep had not been chosen randomly. It had belonged to a soldier whose assignments placed him at critical checkpoints where access to sensitive information was possible. Yet his loyalty had been unquestioned until now. That same soldier had been absent from duty the evening Rex uncovered the cache. By dawn, he was nowhere to be found. The officers pieced together the threads with urgency. The missing soldier was not merely absent, he was fleeing. The intelligence stored in the Jeep was only part of the operation. If he escaped, more secrets could be carried out, more lives placed at risk. It was Rex who provided the next lead. When brought back to the Jeep, the K-9 sniffed again, not at the compartment this time, but at the seat and the floor mat. His nose pressed against the fabric, his tail stiff with focus. He caught the trail, faint but undeniable. Without hesitation, he pulled forward, dragging his handler out of the garage, across the yard, and toward the outer perimeter. The soldiers followed, hearts pounding. Dust lifted under their boots as Rex charged ahead, his body tense with purpose. He traced the trail through narrow lanes, past storage sheds, and out toward the wire fence that guarded the camp's boundary. There, near a section partly obscured by brush, fresh footprints marked the dirt. A cut in the wire glimmered faintly in the morning light. The soldier had slipped out under cover of night. Rex barked sharply, urging the men forward. The trail extended into the open desert, winding toward the distant hills. Vehicles were ordered, engines roared to life as the pursuit began. For hours, the chase unfolded across the barren landscape. Tire tracks appeared in the sand, leading toward an abandoned outpost long unused by the military. The outpost had crumbled walls, half buried in dust, a relic of older conflicts. It was there that Rex stopped once more, his nose pressed firmly to the ground, his body vibrating with intensity. The soldiers surrounded the ruin, weapons ready, hearts racing. Inside, the missing man was found. Exhausted, cornered, and desperate, he had no chance to escape the tightening circle around him. What he carried confirmed everything, a second satchel of documents, this one more recent, detailing planned operations not yet executed. The betrayal was complete, undeniable. He had been feeding intelligence for months, hiding evidence in places no one thought to look. The Jeep, the case, the maps, all pieces of a larger web. And yet, in the midst of this grim revelation, another truth surfaced, one that carried both pain and relief. Among the documents in his satchel was a list of soldiers long declared missing. Cross-referencing those names with the dog tags revealed something unexpected. Some of those men were not lost at all. They had been captured, their identities erased from official reports by false records planted to cover the spies' tracks. For families who had mourned without bodies to bury, there was hope. The discovery cracked open the possibility of rescue missions, of bringing men home who had been written off as gone forever. The tags were not just tokens of betrayal, they were keys to restoring truth. The officers gathered the recovered materials, sealing them as evidence. The spy was taken into custody, and through it all, Rex stood watch, the silent guardian who had refused to let a hidden secret remain buried. Back at the base, the weight of what had been uncovered settled slowly. Men spoke less, their movements heavy with the awareness of how close they had come to continuing in ignorance. Yet alongside the heaviness was gratitude. Gratitude that a dog's instinct had pierced the veil of deception. Days later, operations shifted. Rescue attempts were planned with precision, guided by the names and locations unearthed in the documents. Families received the news they had stopped expecting. Mothers, fathers, and children who had lived with silence now felt the stirrings of hope. The base returned to its routine, but something fundamental had changed. Every soldier who passed Rex now carried a deeper respect. He was no longer just a K-9 partner. He was the reason truth had come to light, the reason betrayal had been exposed, the reason hope had returned to families who thought all was lost. On the morning when the first letters were sent to families, Rex was honored before the assembled troops. The Jeep stood in the background, its hidden compartments sealed once more, now a symbol of the danger that had almost remained unseen. Soldiers saluted, their eyes steady as the dog sat proudly beside his handler, unaware of the full weight of what he had accomplished. The sun rose higher, golden light spilling across the base. The mystery that had begun with a refusal had ended in revelation, closure, and renewed trust. The K-9 had followed his instincts and in doing so, saved not just the lives of those in uniform, but the truth that bound them all together. In the end, what had been uncovered stunned everyone, not for its darkness alone, but for the light it restored. And Rex, the dog who had refused to move from a Jeep, became the silent hero of a story that would be told for years to come. Stories like this come around every day, and the next one is even more shocking. If you skip, you will miss it. Hit like, subscribe, and make sure you are here when the truth unfolds again.